This is the CHGO Cubs podcast, and we are in the Victory Lounge once again, folks. Hello, everybody. My name is Corey Freedman. I am filling in for the venerable Luke Stuckmeyer.
Venerable.
I will do my best.
That's a big word.
We are joined by Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo, and Cody. The vibes, they're really good. The Cubs sweep
Once again
the Pittsburgh Pirates for the second time in a week. They are 6-0 against the Pittsburgh Pirates this season, and the Cubs have won 10 of their last 12 games. Guys, as they head into the off day, they travel to London to face the Cardinals across the pond this weekend. This last week or so, this week plus of Cubs baseball has been about as good as you could have asked for as a response from this team to that little rough patch there before that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's when I feel like we keep bringing it up, but after that Angels series, it felt like the lowest point of the season. And it was. I mean, they were 10 games under 500, right? Yeah. And it felt like I think we still all thought that like the Cubs aren't this bad of a team. Like they're not 10 games below 500. Like last year's team was ended up being a 14 games below 500 team. Like this year's Cubs team should not have been as bad as they were playing. And again, I'm not saying they're like shoo-ins for the playoffs or anything, but like this feels more like the team we thought the Cubs were going to be this season. Like they're getting really good starting pitching. The bats are starting to wake up a little bit. The defense is fine, better than fine, honestly. The defense is good. The bullpen is starting to look a lot better than it had been for weeks. Like everything's starting to come together for all these, like every aspect of a baseball game. Like everything's starting to fit together, and however long, like they've won 10 of 12. I don't know how long they can kind of keep that consistent winning going. But when you're getting the starting pitching, like they've gotten, they're pretty much getting every time out. They're getting the timely hits these days. The bullpen's looking great. The defense is doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like if you can just get 2 or 3 of those consistently, like the Cubs are going to have a chance to win every game. If they can get the bullpen to be fine, the starting pitching to be good, and the defense to play fine, they'll win a lot of games, even if the offense isn't there every game. And I think that's what you're seeing. I mean, obviously this last stretch, the offense has been really good. But even if they start to kind of slow down themselves, like that part of the game, the Cubs should find themselves in a lot of games because the 2 or 3 parts of the game that we thought they were going to be good at to come into the year, they're playing like it now. And I think that's just why this stretch has been so good for the Cubs, 10 of 12. Like a lot of it has to do with those 3 aspects of the game.
Definitely. Yeah. This team is clicking on all cylinders right now, right? Like you're getting great starting pitching. The offense showed up today. They actually trailed to start the game, right? Give up the 1 run, and then they answer back with 3 right away. And then they have their own shutdown inning. Shout out to the all important shutdown inning.
Very important.
You're getting contributions from all across the lineup, and that's just kind of what it's been. At least that's what it feels like. The last 12 games, and it's. I understand it's Pittsburgh, and we all thought they were frauds. I know that 6 of them were against them, obviously, but as we always say, you got to beat the teams in your division. You got to beat the bad teams. Do I think Pittsburgh is as bad as they've been these 6 games against the Cubs? No, but I don't think that the Cubs really ever gave them a chance to win a lot of these games, except for the one where Pittsburgh led 5-1 and then they blew it, right? So the Cubs kind of just stepped on their throats every single game that they played against Pittsburgh last week and this week. This week specifically, Pittsburgh scored what? They scored 3 runs today. Is the most runs they scored in this entire series. Yep. This pitching,
the only runs they scored in this series.
Yeah, like the pitching has dominated Pittsburgh in those 6 games, and specifically this week, especially because there were definitely a lot more runs at Wrigley Field. But like you talk about when you waking up and playing the way you needed to play at the right time, like at the right time to at least get yourself back into the race.
Yeah,
it was huge because I guarantee you, if we went back and listened to the audio going into the first game against Pittsburgh last week, we all probably sat there and said it's the most important game, most important
Everybody
series.
had, social media was ablaze from pretty much every outlet. With after that Angels series, it was like, all right, let's focus on selling at the trade deadline. Like that's where it felt like, and they have responded in the manner that they needed. And you were talking about, playing the Pirates and beating who's on the schedule, and that's really all it is for this team right now, because we knew the division's bad. It doesn't matter where they are in the National League or the MLB as a whole. We knew that this division was tight and winnable, and Jed Hoyer's talked about it a lot. Like, this team needed to show something, and they needed to show something, and they're doing just that. They're still 2 games under 500 at 36 and 38, but they needed to turn it around and get themselves really in that NL Central mix quick to kind of reverse that trade deadline talk, and they've taken care of business. They've done just that. They obviously have to keep that going, starting this weekend in London with the Cardinals, but they're taking care of business day by day, which is what they needed to do.
Yeah, and we can sit here and say they need to do this, need to do that. Like 12 games ago, we could have sat here and said it, but none of us actually believed that any of that shit was going to happen, and then it has. And so I think the players deserve a lot of credit. I think David Ross deserves a lot of credit. I know that no one really liked the lineup today, and it kind of showed with Mancini and that awful air he had. But whatever. They won the game, and they won pretty convincingly, and they dominated this series, and they've dominated a lot of games over the last 12. So, the team isn't perfect. Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do. First, it starts with getting to 500. Would love to win the next 2 in London to get to 500. Oh my God, I would love that. But
yeah,
to me, it's just one game at a time, because I'm not gonna I'm reeled in. Everyone knows I'm reeled back in. But my goal right now for the Cubs is get to 500 and then go. And it's like that, if they lose the first one in London, it's like, all right, you better bounce back, because you can't afford to go back any further under 500. It's a lot more easier to take a loss every now and then once you're above 500 and stay in that race, right? And the only reason I say this is because the Cincinnati Reds are so hot.
They're hot.
11 and straight wins.
Well, and
it's just I can't believe I'm saying it. They're a good baseball team. I don't know if they're gonna go win 90 games. Yeah, if they can sustain it. Their pitching is the one thing that I'm a little I don't know. I do think the Cubs pitching is better than that. So once the league kind of figures out a lot of their young hitters, what will happen then. But right now, it's it feels like the Cubs need to keep winning so they can just maintain pace, because they could have moved to 2.5 games back in the Central today, but instead they're going to stay at 3.5 because the Reds won. So again, just get back to 500 and then go from there. And hopefully they come back to America at 500.
Yeah, and I think David Ross talked too about being lucky, right, that the division had played so poorly. And, the thing with the Reds, at least for right now, is that this is always the opportunity that's presented when the division is playing so poorly, right? It's there for the taking. If somebody gets hot and goes on a little bit of a run, they're going to be in a really good position. But the Cubs are doing their best to keep pace. And as our pal in the YouTube chat here, if you're on YouTube joining us live, hop in that chat. Let us know what you're thinking. Our friend Niren in the chat pointed out if they can go 4-2 over their next 6 games, they'll be exactly at 500 at the 80 game mark of the season, which, again, if you've listened to us for any amount of time, we're not sitting here celebrating that that's where this organization is at. But in the context of this season and where the Cubs have been in terms of their rebuild, not a rebuild, right? For this season, I think that's about what you kind of would have expected, kind of middle of the pack, sticking in the race at the halfway point. Yep. And then it's really just about, do they make any additions to this team? Do you call guys up that start playing better? And then it's about, you're in the division race with 1/2 of baseball left to go, which I think is about sort of the baseline expectation for this roster. So if they're able to do that, I think we'd all hope for better, but I think you would take it at this point. If you can get to the halfway point and realistically be able to win this division, that's where you want to be.
Well, I think if we would have said, coming into this season, 500 ball halfway through the season wasn't going to be okay. It's sell mode time like that. Like you're looking at that outlook. If you're exactly 500 at the halfway point, you're not looking at that in March and saying, okay, like, oh, the Cubs are going to have to sell at that point. Even regardless of how good the division was, like that was a solid place for them to have been, especially when you knew coming in, like a bunch of new guys coming in, like maybe some rookies coming up. The bullpen was still kind of thrown together, even if you had trust that the bullpen was going to work itself out. So I think if you would have said in March, like they're going to be 500 at the 80 game mark, I think people would have been fine with that. And I think it sounds worse after April when they were like 12 or 5 and 4 games over 500 at different points, considering how bad that May was. But like now they went through that May and when they were 10 games below 500, to say they could be at 500 at the 80 game point, I think people would be ecstatic about that.
Exactly.
So in the chat, watcher of the show every day, Collada says we don't stinks.
Wow. He's
Big
back
of
in.
him.
They've reeled him back
reeled
in.
Michael Collada
They've
back
reeled
in.
Collada back in. Let it be known on June 21st, 2023, Collada was reeled back in.
As you guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can all see. If you're listening wherever you get your podcasts, I will try to do my best Pat Hughes impression and paint a beautiful, vivid picture for you. Cody has poured a wonderful, golden Goose Island beer into the Victory Beer Bat. We are here talking about an 8-3 win for the Cubs. They sweep the Pirates. Kyle Hendricks, another quality start. Nico Hoerner, a big day at the plate. And with that, of course, that means we've got a victory chug to do.
Yeah.
Cody.
We have no timer because we're in Studio B and I didn't have time to put it in there. So we're going to let Ryan handle the timing, which is probably good because I was flubbing the timer yesterday pretty badly. So
Cody needs every second, too. So
True. Yeah.
This is also a test of Ryan's integrity. So, his integrity was, it showed well yesterday. I'll give him credit there. But, Luke isn't here to keep him in track because, now Luke's gone and now the kids are running around being crazy. So,
all right. Here we go. Goose.
All right.
Brought to you by the Best Beer Company.
Yeah, this is brought to you by Goose Island, Best Beer Company. Chicago has offer. This beer bat is for Nico Hoerner, who basically willed this team to a win today, at least on offense, in my opinion. Home run, 3 RBIs. Dude's a stud, and it's Oppo Taco, and it's an absolute travesty that he's not, at least hasn't had more votes to the All-Star game. I mean, I generally don't care about Cubs that would go to the All-Star game because I'd rather than just go home and rest and then come back and then fuck the league in the second half. But I digress. Some people care. So go vote for Nico Hoerner. All right, we ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
good start.
That's a good start. Can he get through the? Oh, he's spilling. Spillage.
It's not much. All right.
10-8.
Yeah.
10-8
I kind of got stuck in the middle there.
for all CD.
All right. Well,
10-8.
8 seconds are hard to beat, man.
Well, that's a bummer. We should just end the show there. No, I'm kidding. 10-8, Cody. Good work. I mean,
at least there's some consistency.
I got to tell you, I mean, it's pretty clear. We can go and dig into the Delmetrics. If you go to Fangraphs and go to the Delmetrics tab, you'll find this, Cody's proprietary system. But the way
Where
that
have you seen it? Because I've been trying to get it. I've been trying to get them to let my shit in there, and they ain't doing it.
You have to sign up to be a member. It's a whole thing. They're premium. They're not going to give that away for free.
Yeah. Okay.
Your performance improving as this team has gotten hot. Cody, you're doing your best to will this team to victory. You are responding in kind to the way this team is playing.
Yeah, well, some for some people it's bigger than other things. You know what I mean? Some of us, we're do whatever it takes.
So,
Delmetrics is just like you can't really put a finger on like what any of it is.
It's a feel thing.
Yeah, but if you
It's a
know,
vibe
you
thing.
know, man. It's all about the vibes.
So, few players in particular I think we got to talk about today. I think the first to start with, another quality start from Kyle Hendricks. Gets into a little bit of trouble that Mark Leiter Jr. gets him out of despite Trey Mancini doing his best to completely screw this game up with another just stellar defensive play out there from
Tell
Trey.
me how you feel about it, Corey.
We can get into it. We don't have to get into it. I don't know. But I want to talk about Kyle Hendricks. Just another really good start. He was locating really well on the edges of the strike zone today. Looked really good. And he's come back and been way better than I think any of us would have hoped, just given how he was last year, the injury he was dealing with, and knowing what he was coming back from. For him to look the way he has so far in the 2023 season, especially as the Cubs are trying to get Jameson Taillon back on track. Hayden Wisniewski, obviously, changing roles and not stellar in his first opportunity in the rotation. Hard to, with where they are in this season, hard to overstate just how important Kyle Hendricks has been since coming back.
Yeah. So we got I'm going to throw stats up there. So this is Kyle Hendricks after today's start. 3-2, 34 2/3 innings pitched, 2.60 ERA, 195 average against, and a sub-1, exactly 0.98 WHIP. Yeah, Kyle Hendricks has been he's been good. He's been better than not that I want to say better than like expected or anything like that, but like I'm going to say that because you didn't know what to expect, right? Like it was a long time that Kyle Hendricks didn't pitch. It was a long time that he, had was it the capsular tear in his shoulder. For a guy that's 30-some years old, you'd never really like to hear the word shoulder when it comes to an injury. And they went on this long, extended rehab process that involved different things, programs to kind of increase some of his velocity, involved, adjusting or tweaking his delivery to try to hopefully, stop that, whatever injury came from his previous delivery or however exactly it went, like to try to minimize any future type of ailments in that shoulder by adjusting his delivery. So they did all this stuff in, 11 months? It was a long time for Kyle Hendricks to be out. Again, a guy that's 33, I want to say, years old. Like, you didn't really know if Kyle Hendricks was going to come back and be effective. Like, you just couldn't predict that just because of how long he'd been out. Like, we know that Kyle Hendricks at his best is a good pitcher. You just didn't know if they could get that based on, really honestly the last couple seasons and the just extended time away. So I know we've talked to like Jed and David Ross about that and just about the long recovery and if there were, any concerns or worries that basically what I said, like, did they ever have concerns that he would get back to that type of pitcher? And Jed kind of said, like, yeah, like just in that circumstance, there are going to be some level of concern just because, again, you don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. But they went through that big process. They convinced him that was the right thing to do. They convinced themselves it was the right thing to do. They went through the whole process, and it looks like he's come out on the other side back to a semblance of the Kyle Hendricks that was so good. 2020? Like, he was a really good pitcher in that year, and since then it's been kind of a downhill slide for him. So he's come out. It's only 6 starts, but he's come out and looked pretty good a majority of it. I think that's 5 pretty good starts now. I think the first one wasn't as good, but like he's come out, he's pitched really well. Today he had 31% of his pitches were either called strikes or whiffs, an average exit velocity of 82.6 miles per hour on 19 balls in play. So it's like those are like Kyle Hendricks
the
numbers,
vintage
right?
kind of start.
That's
absolutely.
It's not the best you could see from Kyle Hendricks, but it's like those are the numbers Kyle Hendricks puts up. And so, it looks like the process that they went, as long as it took, it's showing results right now. And I think that's all you could have really hoped for Kyle Hendricks out of what he had to go through. And
you said, it's only been a handful of starts, but I mentioned, Taillon, Wisniewski, but I think the timing in particular of Kyle coming back and pitching like this, Justin Seal is obviously back now. He's been back. He's going to start in London. But for Kyle to come in and do that while Justin was on the injured list and we weren't really sure like what the vibe was there, just really important in getting the Cubs on this stretch and keeping them in the win column as they're trying to keep up with whomever may be in first place in the NL Central on a given day. Hopefully soon it's the Cubs, though.
Yeah, and one more thing is I think maybe a little overlooked with Kyle coming back. Like we talked about in the pregame show, like now they have their ideal rotation of Steele, Stroman, Taillon, Smiley, and Hendricks. And I know like we all know a Tyon has to be better overall, more consistent. But that's their ideal rotation. And now with Kyle back, guys like Hayden Wesneski, Javier Assad, Caleb Killian in the mind, like whoever is that depth, they don't have to like rely on any one of them to come in and like be that fifth star, especially if it's a different season and they're not really, like if it's 2022 and they're not really in a place where they're going to compete, like maybe they can afford to let those guys ride it out, go through the highs and lows that rookie pitchers or young pitchers go through. But this is a year they're talking about competing and they're winning games right now. And now with Kyle Hendricks pitching like this, and if Tyon picks it up, they don't need to have every fifth day a really young or / rookie pitcher go out and don't know what they're going to get from him. So, like, Tyon needs to pitch better. Smiley, Steele, and Stroman do what they're doing, and Kyle Hendricks kind of has to pitch like this, like how he's been pitching the last 5 games. But that's if Tyon can pick it up, then you have a rotation where you feel confident actually every time out that they're going to at least give you a chance to win. And I think just not having to rely on young pitchers in a season where you are trying to compete is a positive that stems from Kyle Hendricks coming back and pitching like this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just remember in the offseason and, spring training, everyone was so excited to see what Wesneski could do in the rotation. And even we all were. And in hand up, I was someone who wasn't exactly excited for Hendricks to come back. And I wasn't going to put my, I wasn't all in on Hendricks coming back and being this effective. And it's 6 starts. I'm sure there'll be some clunkers in there. Every starter has it. But he's performed way over what I expected. I said on pregame that, I'm just hoping for Kyle Hendricks to consistently give us 5 innings and 3 earned or less. Mm-hmm. That's all I want. This guy went into the 7th inning today. He went almost through a no-hitter in San Francisco 2 starts ago. He had a decent start against the Orioles last Friday. The guy's been solid. We put up the stats. He's got an ERA under 3 right now in those 6 starts. It's impressive. And, again, I'm sorry I ever gave up on the dude. But you're right, Ryan, with the fact that Wesneski didn't take control of the role opening the season. And, Caleb Killian hasn't figured it out and all these other things. Having the 5 guys they have in the rotation now, it allows those young guys to find a role in the bullpen or if they're depth in Iowa. And, if the Cubs need a bullpen arm, like Wesneski now we talked about the other day, he becomes he could be in that Keegan Thompson role or the role that Keegan Thompson was in that, he lost because he just didn't have it before being sent down. Yep. And, Javier Assad is another one like that too, right? So though it seems like the team is starting to find roles, and I feel like we talked about in May how the Cubs were still searching for that for a lot of guys, mm-hmm. and now it feels like they're starting to find that, and you're seeing more consistent lineups. You're seeing the same 5 guys out of the starting rotation every 5th day, and you're seeing the high leverage guys come out of the bullpen. Seeing Leiter come in with guys on base. You're seeing Merriweather come in and do his thing. Winning, the fact that they're winning games, the big reason, honestly, is I feel like they've just seemingly kind of found the right roles for a lot of guys. Yeah, they had to switch up the lineup a lot to get this offense jump started. And the pitching has basically been there all year, at least as the starters. But it's been better over the last 12 games because it seems like they have found those roles this month.
Definitely.
And so that's exciting for me and gives me a lot of hope for the rest of the year, because a big thing last year is I just felt like they struggled with finding roles for anyone. They were just throwing guys out there and seeing if it stuck, Yeah. And that's why that team wasn't good. And this year, you felt like in May, everything that was working in April just kind of fell apart. But also, you knew that even in April when they were playing well, they still hadn't found the roles for guys. Because Hosmer was still getting at bats, and Mervis and Morel still weren't here, and you knew they were going to be here, and all these other facets that happened in April, right? So it seems like now those things are starting to fall into place. And again, this team, I'm not saying this team is going to get hot and go win 95 games or anything, but I'm saying that because they're finding roles for this roster, it puts them in a better position to win games. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Again, I'm just hoping that they are at 500 at the All-Star break, and then, see if they get hot in the second half. If they don't buy like it's 2016, but maybe add a few pieces and then see what happens. And if you're playing games in September that matter, where we're sitting in this studio and we're riding every pitch and thinking, man, looking at the scoreboard for all the other teams, considering we haven't done that for 3 years, I'll take that. And then you take that momentum into next year.
Well, you guys will be angry if they don't make the playoffs anyway.
Well, yeah, I know I'll be angry.
I'm always angry, Ryan. I will complain and be angry all the time.
But I agree in the sense that I think we talked about going into the season, there was a very real shot they could be playing meaningful baseball in September. Whether that led to playoffs or not, meaningful baseball in September was like a very attainable goal for the Cubs. And now they're kind of back, like that they're 10 games below 500, and that looks so far away.
Yeah.
But now they're back to where they're in a position where that's not impossible again.
Yeah. The opportunity is there. And again, the context really doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter if they're in a bad division or they're not one of the best teams in baseball. It doesn't matter. The division is right there. It is winnable. The Reds are hot right now, but nobody in this division has planted their flag to take it over. Yeah. And if your goal was to make the playoffs and win the division, it is right there for you to do it. Yeah. So go and do it.
Yeah.
I do want to jump to our first ad break here and thank one of our wonderful sponsors, one of my favorite of our sponsors, and that is the Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary.
Ooh,
Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. One-stop shop for all your cannabis needs, no matter where you are on your cannabis journey. Easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Great transparent loyalty program, Sunnyside Rewards. And it is Illinois' favorite dispensary from city to suburbs, Wrigleyville to River North, Champaign to South Beloit. You guys all know I live in Wrigleyville, that location right by HVAC on Clark Street. One of the best additions to the neighborhood in years. I am a frequent visitor of Sunnyside. It's a wonderful, nice, beautiful facility. And I think the best thing about Sunnyside is that their staff is so knowledgeable and friendly. Like I said, wherever you are on your cannabis journey, they can help you out. If you're experienced, you know what you want, they can get you in and out really quickly. If you have no idea what you're doing and you want to learn, you want to ask questions, they will help you out, and they will give you all of that knowledgeable information to help you get the best experience. Shop the Sunnyside House of Brands like Mindy's, the best-tasting gummy and chocolate edibles created by James Beard award-winning chef Mindy Siegel and Cresco Labs. Shop the High Supply, which offers quality cannabis that's always available. Buds are expertly grown, lab-tested, and available in vape carts, vape pens, flour, popcorn, shake, pre-rolls, shorties, and concentrates. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary has everything that you need, and their knowledgeable staff will help you get whatever you need. Their store on Clark is so nice, and like I said, you get it. You're in the shadow of beautiful, historic Wrigley Field. It's a vibe, I got to tell you. You go shop at Sunnyside, you say hi to the Cubs at Wrigley Field. It's a vibe. Through August, head to sunnyside.shop and use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order, one use per customer. That's not only for new customers. Anyone can use our code. That code is CHGO25 for 25% off your total order. Pick up everything you need to elevate your summer. Must be 21 or older or an Illinois Med card holder.
Or we have another one, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
My bad.
While Cody finds it.
It's mine. It's me. I'm sorry.
I
was reading the timeline, and we'll get to it after.
Yeah, while Cody finds it, I was gonna I'm glad that you reminded people that you live in Wrigleyville. I remember it, and I don't know how far back it is, so if someone wants to go look for it, it's hilarious. But, everyone knows you live in Wrigleyville, but there was one show where Cody literally told everyone exactly where you live.
Not my exact address, but
pretty much.
If somebody wanted to murder me, they could. So,
he doxed you. So someone wants to go back and find that episode. You can find.
I really don't have a defense. I'm just a moron. All right. And y'all like to let me know when I am. So whatever. Big of me to admit it. All right. Lewis University. Someone like me could use some learning, right? Students are just like you. Full-time jobs, families, full-time sports fandoms. Go back to school to earn a respected degree at Lewis University, 35 miles southwest of Chicago and Romeoville, ranked as one of U.S. News and World Report's top-tier colleges. Lewis partners with numerous employers for tuition discounts and offers evening, online, and blended formats to help you balance work, family, and education. Faculty bring real-world experience and instruction to the classroom, which is immediately relevant to your career. We offer career support and academic resources for adult students looking to complete your bachelor's or master's degree or enroll in a professional certificate program. Lewis has the right program for you. Lewis offers several career-focused programs that will set you up for success. We're just going to highlight one here, the Lewis program in criminal justice.
I was going to say aviation.
Aviation
one. That one always intrigues me.
Okay, they got the aviation one. There's computer science, business analytics, criminal justice, business programs, and technology programs. They have all kinds of great stuff. They have grad programs as well. Check it all out. Lewis University. Discover how a degree from Lewis can help you build a better world. Learn more at lewisu.edu/you can do this.
Fernando in the chat says Sunnyside and higher learning. What a pair.
Yep.
You got that right. I also saw in the chat somebody, I think, explaining why I'm sitting lead today, and they said that they don't let Luke out of the home until 3. So not going to tell you you're right or wrong. But
don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
We had a big day. Nico Hoerner back in the leadoff spot. Again, the Cubs winning 8-3, sweeping the Pirates here on a beautiful day in the city of Chicago. They were in Pittsburgh, but it's a beautiful day in Chicago. Nico playing shortstop. The X-rays negative on Dansby Swanson. If you did not catch that update this morning, X-rays negative, obviously giving him the day off. They got the day off and then, the flight to London. So hopefully he is back in there this weekend, but nice to hear that that's negative. They said there was some swelling, so always good to avoid that. But an interesting setup that we had for the game in Pittsburgh today, it meant that Nico was back at shortstop. He goes 2 for 5 in the leadoff spot with 3 RBIs. Christopher Morel gets to play defense. He plays at second base. Nick Madrigal still at third base. So a little bit of an interesting lineup there for David Ross, but a big day for Nico Hoerner. We do have a super chat from Fernando. Real sharp Wrigley t-shirt. Yes.
It is.
Beautiful historic Wrigley Field.
I do like the shirt. It is a great shirt.
Thank you. I look nice. I look nice in the Shady Rays,
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
I've
seen
really big day for Nico Hoerner. The triple opposite field home run. Just nice to see. He went through a little bit of a slump not that long ago, but just good to see him get back in that leadoff spot and really pace this lineup today.
Yeah, I mean, I know he hasn't been leading off, but he led off today, and he was big in the spot, man. And no matter where he's hitting the lineup, they're going to need him to be a run producer. Like, he's not going to hit you 25, 30 home runs, but the one thing he's always done is hit with runners in scoring position. He did that in the second or third inning today. They were down 1-0, and he hit the 2 guys in that were at second and third.
Bunt.
Yeah. And like that's just, and he did it in the most Nico way ever, which was just going opposite field down the right field line for a double. When he's going opposite field, hitting line drives opposite field, I feel like that's when he's at his best. But yeah, like it blows my mind that he's so far down in the standings for second base, all-star second baseman. He's shown to have Gold Glove caliber defense, and the offense has been there this year. Yeah, he's had bad stretches, but what player in baseball hasn't outside of Luis Arias, I guess? But.
Yeah. So Nico, as we mentioned, he's not. It doesn't seem like he'd be the best run producer on this team. He has 38 RBIs. He's leading the team with those 38 RBIs, even though a majority of his games came out of the leadoff position, and I understand Mike Tauchman has talked about it before that you really only lead off once a game from the leadoff spot, but you do get the most amount of plate appearances, and you are obviously before the heart of the order rather than behind it. So to have him leading the team with 38 RBIs was surprising to see. He's also still leading the team with 16 RBIs or 16 stolen bases, so that's a different fun fact for Nico Hoerner. His WRC plus is still only 101, and I know like some of the slumps and down stretches that he's had has contributed to that. So you would obviously like to see that be higher, but he does have 2.1, Fangraphs wins above replacement, and a lot of that has to do with how good defensively he is. If he's only a 101 WRC plus, that means he has been really good at defense. And so if he can just continue to do what he's done in the field and have more consistently, I guess, games like he had today, he doesn't have to hit a home run and a triple every game, but like just better offensive performances on a consistent basis. Like that's where Nico's value is. I don't think the Cubs are expecting him to be their top offensive player. They're expecting him to be a big contributor and play Gold Glove caliber defense, and that's when Nico Hoerner's at his best. So you want to see those offensive, the overall, the 101 WRC plus, like you want to see that climb a little bit. But if he can do that and just continue to be the Gold Glove caliber second baseman that he's been, like that's where Nico's value comes in. So a day like this is really good to see, as far as like you hope that this helps him kind of just get back into a more consistent production sense offensively.
Well, I think it's, today is also a good day where you see that value of the depth, right? Like obviously Dansby misses any amount of time and you have a guy that could win a Gold Glove at shortstop, just move on over to short, which I think is obviously a nice luxury to have. And when you go back, a few years when Javi Baez used to man the position for this team, there were years where this team did not have any organizational depth. I mean, that's how Nico comes up in the first place, right? It's so early in his career is that they just didn't have any shortstop depth. So when Dansby goes down and you drop one Gold Glover to just move one over, it's a nice luxury for this team to have. Was interesting seeing Christopher Morel out there in the field getting the shot at second base, not third base. Nick Madrigal sticking at third base. Ryan, I was curious your thought on that. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, we saw last year the struggles that Christopher Morel had with the throwing angle at third base. But just on the opportunity on this particular day, I did think it was interesting that we didn't see Morel at third and switch Madrigal back over to, I guess, his more natural position. But at this point, I guess they want Madrigal sticking at third.
Yeah, I think that plays a big part of it is like if Madrigal's playing good defense, which he is, he's playing fine, good defense over at third base. He hasn't been a negative there. And I think that plays a part in it. But it's also like, I think, and David Ross has talked about that as far as like they've been trying Morel as this super utility player, right? And it just like defensively has not necessarily worked out. But Ross has talked before about how he kind of feels Morel's best potential defensively, I guess is the right word, would be up the middle. So second base, shortstop, center field, like those spots on the field. He may be best at one of those positions, which is why I think he's gotten some run in center field, and why today he got that shot at second base. Where, I mean, earlier in the season when Dansby came out mid game, they shifted Nico over to short and put Madrigal in at second base. Like that was, I think, just the situation that was called for. And Madrigal might not have even been playing that game at that point. But today felt like we like what Nick does at third base. He's not costing us games at third base. He's making the routine plays. Like keep him there, keep him doing what he's doing. Move obviously a Gold Glove caliber shortstop over, or second baseman over to shortstop where he plays really well as well. And if Morel could potentially be, like if this may be where he's best profiled as a defender, we'll give him the run at second base while he's got it. Like give him the shot today. I think that's what it came down to.
Let me ask you guys this, because Corey, this is something that we've been talking about. These guys have been talking about here at the last few post-game shows, trying to figure out Morel's place, in the lineup and where he's going to play. And Cody's been beating it to death that he should have had an opportunity in the spring to prove he can play third. But now that we saw him today at second, and you moved Nico over to short, I'm just going to throw this crazy hypothetical out, and feel free, chat, to just blow me up on it. But if you want to get power in the lineup, Morel at second, Nico at short, and put Dansby, who has all this range, over at third? Or do you not mess with your premier player and keep him at shortstop?
If they were going to do that, I think Nico would be the one that would end up at third. I think Dansby's your shortstop. I don't think that ever changes.
But it should change. Yeah.
We kind of talked about that. I talked about that with Brendan on Sunday. It's something to consider, but I'm not sure they want to mess with the middle infield defense. I think it's so good. And especially while you have a guy like Hendricks, a guy like Stroman, who are just getting people to beat the ball into the ground, I don't know that they want to change that. It's definitely worth considering, right? I think as they go along here, they're going to have to weigh how much offense do we need? Can we leave Morel at the DH? Is that fine? And how are we prioritizing the defense? So my guess would be that they don't mess with the middle infield unless they really have to. But I don't know. If Joe Madden were still managing this team, my answer would be completely different. Dansby could be in left field for all we know to get Morel in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think they value they signed Dansby and moved Nico to do just that. I think unless they are desperate for offense and they can't piece it together any other way, I don't think they change that.
And you talk to the organizational brass, right? All about the Tom Ricketts, who talked about this during spring, like. One of the reasons why they like Dansby so much is because they felt like he's the one that will last through the contract at shortstop versus Correa or Turner or Bogarts. Like that's one of the reasons why they were intent on getting Dansby Swanson, because they felt like he could be the one of those four that lasts at shortstop through the end of that contract. Yeah, they're not moving him off shortstop. I will say to that, to kind of the overall question you posed, like, if Morel, which he has done better at being the DH, and he's talked about how he just, when he was just DHing the first few times, and he felt like he would just go in and try to tinker with everything or like overthink what went wrong in that at bat versus like going back out in the field and focusing on defense, right? He had a conversation with Mike Napoli, who's DH'd a bunch in his career during his playing career, and Mike Napoli kind of told him just to like don't go to the iPads. Don't just kind of watch the game like you're in the game. Like, don't go to the iPads. Don't try to fix every little thing that went wrong in that last at bat. Just focus on the next one. And that has seemed to help Morel a little bit more in the DH spot over the last 2 weeks, whatever the stretch is. So if he can figure out how to if he's playing DH and just produce at a level that he has, especially this season, like if he can do that from the DH spot, then you don't have to worry about getting him in the field defensively. You'll have that. That's why the DH spot has been such a kind of big thing for the Cubs and for the National League in general. Is like now you have a spot where these guys who just aren't sticking at any one spot, if they can produce from DH, then you don't have to worry about it, right? Mm-hmm. I think that all plays into why Morel isn't getting that shot at third base and why they wouldn't move around that middle infield defense to try to accommodate that.
Well, Nick Madrigal, he had a 2 RBI single today, guys.
Almost hit a home run yesterday.
Almost hit one over the fence.
I get labeled as biggest hater, which I don't think I am, but he's been playing better. He's getting on base. I feel like I've been very rational about it, but we can offline about that.
I definitely haven't been as
He's been playing better. I think, ultimately, look, like obviously you're going to want more slug and power from somebody playing third base, especially when the middle infield we're talking about is a lot of contact, not necessarily going to be 30, 40 homer guys, right? Which at the moment you don't really have anywhere on the team, especially with Patrick Wisdom not playing well and being out. But for now, with the guys that they have, like this last little stretch has been better for Madrigal. He's getting on base at an acceptable clip. Almost hit a homer, even though somehow that still wasn't a barrel for him. But I think it's fine. I think on a day like today, and in a second here, we're going to get into our second ad break. But first base was obviously where the defensive issue came in with Trey Mancini. Look, I'm not going to launch into a whole thing on this because I could. For me personally, I'm just over Trey Mancini. I'm done with it. He has not been good enough as a hitter. And his defense in right and first base, he just doesn't look athletic. He looks not in the best of shape at this point in his career. And it's cost the team at various times. I mean, he almost took out one of their best relievers. And, it's just one error. Like, it's not, we don't have to come down on him. But it was an important moment in the game. And I think we've seen at times this year the problem, and it sort of plays into the Morel thing, the problem of playing guys. Mancini's a first baseman, but at positions they're not great at, right? And at this point, he's not great there. Yeah. And it can cost you. We saw it a lot earlier in the season when Seiya was out with different guys filling in right field. And that was almost a very costly error today, not just for this game, but for Mark Leiter Jr., who luckily appeared to be okay and hopefully is okay after taking kind of a nasty fall. I give David Ross credit. I think somebody mentioned this in the chat. I don't know if he brought Cody Bellinger in to hit, and because at the time the Pirates made a switch, but they had a right-hander on the mound. But if it was for the error, I liked the aggressiveness. Regardless, I liked the aggressiveness. Putting in the better bat and saying, hey, like, we need to win these games. That error was not acceptable. You need to make that play. You're out. Like, that's I felt that in the moment. So I give David Ross credit for that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to his credit is he didn't make you have to ask the question after the game of why did you leave Mancini in?
Right.
After that, like, it was, he did it regardless of what the reasoning behind
the better
putting
bat.
Bellinger in
we
was.
need the better D. Yeah, exactly.
Mancini's been, like you mentioned, he's a first baseman. He's -3 defensive run saved at first base this year. -1 out above average. So I guess that's technically 1 out below average. I don't know how to properly say that, but no, he hasn't been good at first base. And like, you signed him 2-year contract, $14 million, I want to say.
Yes.
Like, he has some kind of pedigree as a successful hitter.
Sure.
The bat just hasn't really shown up. I think he's been a little bit better the last few weeks. But at this point, it's like, this was the kind of game you were going to start him if you're going to start him, right? Against a lefty on the mound, a guy he's had, like you mentioned, pregame, some success against in his career, even though it was, a handful of at-bats. Like, this was a game you're going to start him. But I will... you can't defend that error. Like, that was a poor play on a play that should have gotten them out of the inning. Puts Mark Leiter Jr. in a position where he could get hurt. Like, we still got to kind of see what the update is there. He was able to finish the inning, but, like, there's no defending that error. And it's just, if you look at the numbers, he just hasn't been great at that spot. And, when people still bring up Anthony Rizzo and how, like, there's a first base is still open, like, Rizzo would fit in so great here. Like, I kind of understand it because, like, Trey Mancini obviously hasn't locked down the first base spot for this year or next year. Eric Hosmer totally didn't, and he's not even on the team anymore. Matt Mervis came up and didn't, take control of that spot himself. Cody Bellinger's probably not going to be their first baseman for a long time. I guess maybe you ride the Mike Tauchman wave and see where that goes. But, like, eventually Bellinger will not be playing first base, so there still isn't a clear, like, this is our first baseman if I'm the Cubs. Like, if I'm the Cubs, I don't see, like, this is the guy we need to play at first base all the time. If that becomes Mervis, maybe it does, right? But there's no one there. And Trey Mancini, in the opportunities he's given, he has to take advantage because he's losing playing time. Throughout the year, he is losing playing time because the bat hasn't made up for everything. The defense hasn't been great. And eventually, it's a 2-year contract, and they're going to play him.
Yeah.
But he's got to take advantage of the spots that he's given. I
think ultimately, and it does sort of pair with the Madrigal conversation, like, at this point, Trey Mancini's been a sub-replacement level player, right? He's been below average on offense, 86 WRC plus. He is obviously not a good defender. And, the bigger problem for this team, we've seen them score a lot of runs in some of these games over the past, week and a half plus. But when we're talking about first base and third base, both positions where you're getting below league average offensive performance, you're not getting slug. Like, you look around the league, right? Like, you're probably going to want some offensive production at third and first base, particularly guys that can slug. And the Cubs just don't have that. So for now, like you said, Ryan, like, if Tauchman can hold down center and Cody's not ready to play center field, like, maybe that's the answer, even though Cody struggled a little bit before the injury and coming back. But, it's, he's dealing with an injury. So we'll see. You need some slug at one of the corner positions. It's just something that has to happen, especially when you look at the outfield. Like, Ian Happ has not been hitting as many homers, so as we go forward here and you're trying to get this offense locked down, you need some slugs somewhere on this team, and they may not have an immediate answer, but that's why they plugged Matt Mervis in when they did. They were hoping that he was going to be able to provide that. So
yeah, I mean, Mancini, like obviously the air wasn't great today, and he didn't do anything with the bat. He had a couple hard hit balls that unfortunately went right to guys, whatever. But you gotta they're not gonna DFA him. He's on a 2-year deal. They're not going to DFA him. I'm sorry, guys. People that are in the chat yelling about they're not going to DFA him.
He had been on a better offensive stretch, right? Still not great, but
at this point in the season, when I want the Cubs to just try to win games, is he should be in the lineup when they face left-handed pitchers. That's it. That's where I'm at with him. And when he's in the lineup, he should just be the DH because, like Ryan said, the defense has been atrocious at first, and he can't play the outfield anymore. We've seen that. Like when the Cubs signed him, we were like, oh, he can play a little left, he can play a little right, he can play first base, and it's just like, nah, that's not it.
I didn't say that. I said maybe not.
Do you feel better now?
I feel great. I was right.
For fuck's sake. Okay. Anyway, no,
I get
What I'm saying though is that he just hasn't lived up to any of those expectations. And I wasn't really even expecting him to play a lot of outfield. I'm saying that for him to platoon with Matt Mervis at some point in this season at first base. And again, I still think that them sending down Mervis was because they want to play Morel, and that's fine. I wish they could find a way to fit them both on the roster. I don't know why Mastroboni and Madrigal are on the roster at the same time. That doesn't make sense to me, and that's another reason why I feel why Mervis should be here. I understand Mervis's season-long numbers aren't great, but still, you'd rather have Mervis in DH or first base if you're going to sit Cody Bellinger for a day. That's just how
I'd rather
I feel.
learn about Mervis than deal with whatever Trey Mancini's doing.
Right.
But
again, they're winning games, so it's fine right now. But yeah, you gotta figure out this situation at first base eventually, especially if Tauchman, the legend of Mike Tauchman ends, the summer of Mike Tauchman. If it ends and he goes back to just playing a fourth outfielder, and you get to a point where Bellinger can go back to center, and you move him to center, then who are you going to play at first? And maybe the Cubs will just play Bellinger at first the rest of the year. I don't know. He's played well enough defensively there that he could do it. And obviously he has the bat, and I do think he'll be better offensively than he's been since he came back from the injury. But I'm just very there's a lot of roster decisions that I don't understand when it comes to why when it comes to first base right now, at least it's Mancini or Bellinger. And again, I don't think that Mervis is going to make that big of a change or impact, at least based off what we've seen. But you never know.
Yeah,
the guy can readjust like Morel did, and you can get a hot streak from him, and that can change a season for your team. You know what I mean? And again, Mancini's defense has been so bad that you can't even play him there and feel confident with him there. And at least with Mervis, he had one bad defensive game at first base, and that was in Anaheim that we talked about extensively about. But
yeah, so I think ultimately, we get into this because obviously it was a significant moment in this game, but it's a tight division. These decisions are likely what's going to decide this division. So the Cubs are winning games; they're playing really well right now. But they need to keep this going, right? And there's still a couple games under 500. And in order to, if you're trying to keep pace with 3 or 4 teams at once in your division, all these little things are going to be what Jed is going to have to solve if they're serious about competing here. But
yeah, I'd also like to point out real quick that Gary has created an army
for Jake Slaughter,
an army of Jake Slaughter.
Oh, so it's not just the Discord now.
It is an army in this chat right now.
We'll
get into it in a future episode.
Corey, after the ad break, you're contractually obligated to talk about Slaughter.
We're going to have to call in Greg Huss or something because
Which we did.
I do not have the pedigree to talk about that. But do want to talk about our good friends at ComEd. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
Yeah, ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
My question, Ryan, how does it work?
Well, let me tell you, Corey. It's a good question. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy-saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Did you say ComEd.com/poweringbiz?
You want to take it?
Yeah, schedule it today.
Today.
That's in honor of our good friend Luke Stuckmeyer.
And when you do that, once you're done scheduling your free facility assessment, take a look at Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. You get durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures when you put on your Shady Rays. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. You drop them in a river in San Antonio, or they break in a river and then they fall into the river, then they got your back. They got your back. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building playsets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. So, quick, who you got before we get into the other side?
Yeah.
Quick,
I was reading the comments. I'm sorry.
You just looked like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something.
Well, now that you say that, I would like to mention that Tommy Birch tweeted that Nelson Velasquez and Edwin Rios are going to be like the taxi squad en route to London.
Yeah, so that was a question that I had. I know last year Alfonso Rivas was the 27th man or something like that for that Field of Dreams game. So he was able to go there and do stuff. He was on the 40-man roster. They kind of brought him along. He was able to do stuff for the Field of Dreams game. So I was curious to see who they would be able to bring with them to London.
Yeah, and I think somebody asked in the chat, like, if they would leave some of the guys back in Chicago just so they could rest. You would know better than me, but I assume that is not the case. I remember, like, when I worked for the team at Michigan, like, if we had a doubleheader, they would let the second starting pitcher sleep at the hotel and just, like, skip the first game. I think at the major league level, like, everybody's going to London.
I doubt it because you never really know who you might need at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like
if Dansby were not, dealing with the wrist, maybe like something like that, he doesn't need to go. But you need everybody there, so they're gonna go.
I doubt they're gonna let any. I haven't really asked that question because it never crossed my mind.
It was an interesting question,
but
though.
I doubt
it.
I doubt it.
I mean, because it is somewhat like, this is exciting. We're happy for our friend Rachel, who gets to sort of be our like host for this event in London. But I do think, like, Cubs have won 10 of 12, right? They're hot. They're playing good baseball. Up to me, right? Like, I would prefer they not have to go do this. This just feels like the type of thing that throws them off their sleep schedule or whatever, but I don't know. Like, hopefully it's a great weekend. Stroh and Justin Steele steal the show, show England what Cubs baseball is all about, and it goes well. But I don't know. I just wish they were able to keep riding this hot streak rather than 2 days off, a long flight to London, changing time zones, then they gotta come back. I don't know. I just feel like the timing could be better.
Yeah. At least they're getting extra rest for like their other starters.
Sure.
I'm like kind of in the same realm as you, but whatever.
When they get back from London, just looking ahead here, just for some context, they are off. So they're off Thursday and Friday. Then the 2 in London over the weekend. They are off on the 26th on Monday after those 2 games. And then they are back at beautiful historic Wrigley Field on the 27th, a Tuesday, for 3 with the Phillies. And then they have another 3 with Cleveland. So an interesting little stretch there that they have coming up. Again, as we talked about, they got to take it day by day. They got to keep winning games. And this is, another stretch that you look at and you go, all right, this is going to be pretty much everything is, but it feels like this little stretch to when they finish. Then after that Cleveland series, they go on the road for 7 straight with Milwaukee and the New York Yankees leading into the All-Star break. That's a tough stretch they got coming off of flying to a different continent. So I don't want to call anything the make or break because as we've seen, especially after that Angels series, like we kind of thought the season was over, or at least a lot of people did. Yeah. And here they are, still have a chance. We're scoreboard watching and doing all of that. But this feels, especially it'll take us into mid-July. This stretch coming up here feels like maybe the most pivotal. I don't know,
it may be the most pivotal stretch of the season.
Yeah.
Now that they have gotten themselves back into it.
Sometimes they don't want to be hyperbolic. Other times, let's be as hyperbolic as possible. This is it.
I think it's okay. Before we skip over London too fast, we do have the Cubs announce their 2 starters in London. Justin Steele will go Saturday. Marcus Stroman's going Sunday. The off days obviously allow. I think Steele would be 6 days in between starts, and Stroman would be on a full 5 days of rest. And I don't know how much the trip to London affects that aspect of rest. Mm-hmm. But they got their 2 best starters on the mound going up in 2 division games in London. On the big stage, it'll be Fox and ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. Is those games like Fox gets Saturday, ESPN gets Sunday, I believe. So it is. You got your 2 best pitchers going against the Cardinals overseas on the big stage. The Cardinals are in a pretty poor position right now, but it's still 2 pretty big games. It feels like one of those where when Cubs Cardinals play, you kind of throw everything that just happened out the window,
and we
you
just
got to beat them.
Better than that effort at Wrigley Field, right? Yeah. The Cardinals have been. I think they had a decent run recently, but don't let them get hot or stay hot against you, right? They've been the bottom. They've been the cellar dweller in the NL Central for most of this season. Wilson has not been good on the whole. We don't need him getting hot only against us. Come on, just shut him down. I expect Steele and
They're playing the Nationals this week, so
right. We do have a $20 super chat from Gerard. We appreciate that very much. Gerard says, London calling will be fun to watch. Pancakes and waffles for this weekend's early games. Is there a morning Goose Island brew? Cheers, mates. Go Cubs, go. I know Sam below him in the chat will also be at the game. Sam
Blake
has been great interacting on social media. I know he'll be over there in London. So we've got a crew. So
unfortunately, we won't be there, but at least we have people that we'll be there in spirit. And
what about people that are there that want to go to the game?
Do we want to do? We're gonna do who you got after we do the ad read.
Let's do that.
Sure.
Let's
and sorry, we gotta wrap
ruining
up.
your transition.
Oh, we're still talking about London.
Okay.
I'm still talking about London.
I know this is something I should know as a Cub fan, but so what time are first pitch for these games over the weekend?
So here it's 12 and 9:30. I want to say 12.
I believe that is correct.
12 and then 9:30.
12, 10, and 9:10.
Okay, there you go. 12, 10, and 9:10.
So an early Sunday morning. If you're gonna do a full English breakfast, you're going to have to get up pretty early. That's a lot of cooking prep. You got to get
And then I went to London for the Bears game, and English breakfasts are weird.
You're not a big fan of beans for breakfast, Braggs?
Rachel, get at him.
Yeah.
Yell at him.
My buddy George brought me over there, and they brought out this plate. I'm like, what is this? It looks like something got murdered on this plate.
Cody's going to do a beer bat chug, but just full of baked beans at 9 in the morning. So
That's gonna be a no for me, dog. Yeah.
But yeah, if you're in London, you want to go to the game.
You can
Cody's
go,
got you.
you can use Game Time, and you could go on Game Time for really cheap based off what I saw on the app when we were looking it up. During the
Couple hours
game,
ago.
whenever in between innings. Again, on Game Time, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. I said this the other day. I got my ticket to Morgan Wallen on Game Time for a really great price, less than $200 for the last handful of months. Every ticketing site has had any ticket for Morgan Wallen well over $250, and I got for under $200 on Game Time. I did. It was such a good deal that I couldn't wait because I felt like someone else was going to grab it. So maybe I got lucky. Maybe I'll see the prices even lower Thursday. Whenever the time is ticking almost to the concert, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen for at least for my sake. But again, because of Game Time, I was able to get a really great ticket and seat. Game Time is a place for last minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason, Ryan. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. It's the most annoying thing when it comes to this kind of stuff. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And I'm pretty sure the tickets in London are
I got 'em right here.
$6.
Cheapest tickets.
And they even have
thinking
like
about taking
flash
a
deals right
last-minute
now.
flight, you can get in the game for almost nothing on Game Time.
Yeah, if you're signing up and using that
can
code
pull
for the
the
first
trigger.
time, you're basically going for free.
In the meantime,
So if someone wants to buy me a plane ticket to get me there, like I'm
There
in.
you go.
I'm in. I'll buy your ticket on Game Time too.
In the meantime, we have started a full-on baked bean war in the YouTube
Yeah.
comments. If you're listening
I did gaslight
wherever you
this.
get your podcast, you are missing a really hot debate on beans.
It went from Jake
in our
Slaughter
YouTube
to
chat.
baked
So,
beans, baby.
Kyle Hendricks, Nico Hoerner, beans.
Beans.
That's the CHGO Cubs podcast today.
I guess sneak.
Quickly, we're giving Brendan the W
Yeah,
on who
okay.
you got today. He had Seiya Suzuki 2 for 3 with an RBI and a walk. Nobody took Nico Hoerner and Ian Happ. Had anybody taken either of them, they probably
They're
would have
clear
won. They
winners.
had a kind of bigger day. But Brendan, much to my chagrin, I will give him the who you got W today.
I took Madrigal, and we're now 10-1. When I take
we-
Madrigal, Masterboni, or Barnhart,
Big of you.
big of me.
Credit to you.
Man of integrity.
We thank you for joining us on the CHGO Cubs podcast. We ran a little bit long, but that's what happens when I'm in the host chair. We just get on rambling. Again,
We miss
Cubs
Luke.
win 8-3 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. They sweep the Pirates 6-0 against the Pirates on the season. We will have an off-day show for you tomorrow in the afternoon. Brendan and I will be with you on Sunday live on YouTube to talk about the London series. Cubs are off Thursday and Friday, 2 in London, early in the morning. Don't forget to set your alarms. Appreciate you guys tuning in for the CHGO Cubs podcast. I'm Corey Freedman, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo. We will catch you tomorrow, and as I always say, at least, go Cubs.
We had almost 200 people in there.